Josh. And hi, Eyal.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, everyone's here. We can start. Okay, so we are going to cover today a fascinating topic, a topic which there is so much discussion about and such little understanding about, a topic which is so fundamental to our religion, to Judaism, and also which has repercussions until today. We are going to talk about the greatest sin in Jewish history, if you want, or should I say, the greatest communal sin in Jewish history. The greatest sin in Jewish history was Adam and Chava. But the greatest communal sin in Jewish history was what happened this week's parasha, Parashat Ki Tisa, is the sin of the golden calf, the Egel Hazahah. And we're going to try and elaborate, going to try and get a bit of an understanding. I'm going to raise a few questions, and I want to hear from you a little bit how you understand it. And then I'm going to try and break it down for you from Rashi to see what Rashi actually kind of brings out and what Rashi kind of leaves out because it's so basic that we have to understand it before even Rashi comes into the picture. Remember, Rashi is the one who's trying to explain the simplistic understanding of the Pasuk. So if there's such massive questions, either Rashi deals with them, and if Rashi doesn't deal with them, there must be something hidden within the Pesukim, within the verses, that kind of gives us some understanding to what's going on. So let's try and break this down a little bit from a pshat perspective, from a simple level, but perhaps not so simplistic. So we are going to jump in right into Perek Lamed Bet, Parashat Ki Tisa, chapter 32. Pasuk Aleph. So maybe I should just start off with a couple of questions to try and get us going a little bit, and then maybe we can start looking into the actual Rashis and the actual Pasukim first. So here's the deal. We all know the story of the golden calf. I don't need to say the story over. We all know what happened. Moshe Rabbeinu has gone up the mountain. Before he knows it, the Jewish people are creating a golden calf. Comes down the mountain with the tablets, with the luchot. He sees them dancing around this golden calf. He takes them, he smashes them. Boom! The whole system, the party stops, and he kind of puts discipline back into place. People die, and kind of that's the next stage of the Jewish people are going to be in a different place. He goes back up the mountain to God, and he asks them to forgive them. And God eventually, after the second round of 40 days, comes back on Yom Kippur. He says, write down a second tablets, which you're going to write, and we're going to be good, and I've forgiven you. And that's Yom Kippur. That's one of the reasons why we have Yom Kippur. The first time was, the first 40 days was on Rosh Chodesh Elul. That's how we Sfaradim start Selichot on Rosh Chodesh Elul, because that was a very special day. And finally came down the second tablets, say, Vayomer Hashem salachti kidvarecha. It's a great day for the Jewish people, that there's a day of Mechila, Slicha, Kapara. That is going to be a day of forgiveness, a day of atonement. Even this huge sin of literally, of Avodah Zarah, of idol worship, is going to be forgiven by God to the Jewish people. I should point out just a point which we've been discussing recently quite a bit, exactly chronologically, when this story actually happened, historically. There's a famous machloket we pointed out quite a few times between Rashi and Ramban, is the Torah written in chronological order or not? Rashi's opinion is that it's not written in chronological order, and Rashi points out straight away over here that the fact is we know that the Egel happened on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, that the first tablets were broken, and we know that the second tablets were given Yom Kippur. So that means, I don't want to go into this so much because I really want to get into the story, but just important to know that if Shavuot is Matan Torah, it's Har Sinai, so that's Vav Vesivan. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up the mountain to study and understand the Torah. He comes down 40 days later, and literally 40 days later, 40 days after the Jewish people say Na'aseh v'nishma, he comes down and breaks the luchot. The Jews are already celebrating the golden calf. So, and then the question is, at what point did they get the commandment to build the Mishkan? The commandment to build the Mishkan was actually the day after Yom Kippur. That means that this whole thing of the Mishkan, the last two parashiyot, Terumah Tetzaveh, actually happens after this story. So Rashi already says, we can see the Torah is not written in chronological order, and there's discussions, Ramban, Sephorno, who kind of say there was plan A, there was plan B. Plan A was that we don't even need a Mishkan, we don't need a tabernacle, we don't need Shekhinah in like through a certain intermediary. We have that Kedusha between us and God direct. Once they came ahead and they actually did the Egel, that kind of messed everything up. There had to be a whole different situation. But again, putting that aside, I want to kind of really focus on what happened at the Egel. Now, the first and most basic question, which we all have to ask ourselves, is exactly that. We just said Na'aseh v'nishma. The Jewish people are at the peak, at the pinnacle of any situation they've ever been before. They've been so close to God. They come to a situation, they say, Na'aseh v'nishma. Just tell us whatever you want, God. We're good to go. Har Sinai, the greatest revelation ever happened. God reveals himself and gives the 10 commandments. They're so close. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up. 40 days later, wham, everything goes right, not just from here to, middle stage, but from top to right down the depths. That they're serving the Egel HaZahav, they're serving idol worship. The Midrash actually likens it to a kala hamezaneh tachat chupata, a bride who's actually under the chuppah, and she's committing adultery under the chuppah. What's the matter with you? You just said Na'aseh v'nishma. So the first, most basic question, which we have to understand before we even begin to grapple with the actual psukim, is how is it possible the Jewish people are in the beginning of their honeymoon? They just got married. They just literally had this great revelation and connection to God. And within 40 days, they're back to, they're so low down the dumps. Tell me, you're married 20, 30 years, the relationship is a bit cold, it's a little bit thick. Okay, didn't get quiet to the same level of love between the Chatan and the Kala. Chatan being God and the Kala being the Jewish people. But 40 days, give us a break. What is going on? How is it possible they've gone from such a high level to, people who've seen the greatest revelations, the same people who went through Mitzrayim, the same people who had gone through the manna falling down from heaven, the same people who got the revelation at Mount Sinai, and they get to the stage of serving idol worship, the dancing around this golden calf. Question number one. Anybody want to suggest anything? Gavi.
Well, I have got a suggestion, but also a comment, because I was going through this week. It struck me as weird. Rashi keeps talking about the Erev Ra that was in place, that had an influence on the people. And I don't know how to say it, but it felt like it was almost like a little bit of apologetics on our behalf to say that we couldn't have reached that alone, that there was this sort of insidious influence inside. Because he also does the same thing with our own, saying he kept trying to delay, right?
So I don't want to go there. There is such a one of the approaches is that, but I want to go on Pshat. It's already Erev Rav and exactly who was involved in. I want to say Pshat. There's Jewish people, the entire Jewish nation got punished. I want to understand how is it possible that the Jewish people, whoever you want to call them, parts of certain fringe groups, it makes no difference. The Jewish people get punished. And you know what? As a result, Moshe Rabbeinu smashes the Luchot. And not only did he smash the Luchot, there is first Luchot and second Luchot. The first tablets were very different to the second tablets. The first tablets were written Maaseh Elokim, written by God. The second tablets written by Moses, written by Moshe Rabbeinu. So even that alone is a difference in level in the actual tablets that we received. So first of all, I'm not going to go into in from a practical perspective what that did to us. There's much discussion about the change of approach in learning, how we would have learned if we would have got the luchot from God, and how we learn today, that we forget our learning and we have to keep on kind of reminding ourselves because it was only like man-made. So there was serious implications which we suffer from today as a result of the Egel HaZahav. What is it? What's going on? How do we even begin to grapple with such a national calamity? So I want to go on with the second question. Maybe before I say the second question, it's actually interesting to note, this is a very interesting idea, because it's understandable how God's reaction was so forceful, right? If we say like that it's literally, you've just messed up so badly, you can imagine why God turns around to Moses, to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says, listen, I'm done. Let's quickly look at the pasuk. What's God's initial reaction?
For the people.
Oh, let's look. Pasuk Tet, Pasuk 9, Pasuk 10. Vayomer Adonai Moshe, Ra'iti et ha'am hazeh ve'nei am kshe'orefu. I've seen these people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Ve'ata hanichu li v'yichar api bahem v'achalem ve'eseh otcha legoy gadol. Let's make a deal. And now desist from me. Let my anger flare up against them. I shall annihilate them. I shall make you a great nation. I'm done. I'm done with this. Okay? I'm so fed up with these guys. Just going to kill them out. Moshe Rabbeinu, we'll start a new nation from you, and we'll start fresh. Plan B. Now here comes Moshe Rabbeinu, and this is the famous pasuk, the next pasuk, Pasuk Yud Aleph, Pasuk 11. Vayichal Moshe et pnei Adonai Elohav. This is the Kriyat Torah, which we say in every fast day. And he beseeches, he pleads from Hashem. He starts telling him, listen, Kadosh Baruch Hu, you have to understand, this is your people. Don't say it's my people, it's your people. You took them out of Mitzrayim. There's going to be such a tremendous Chilul Hashem if, they'll say you took them out of Egypt and you killed them out. They're the sons of Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. And you know what? If you're not going to listen to me, I retain owner's rights of copyright. Mi Moshe Rabbeinu mecheni na misifrecha shekatavta. Wipe me out. Don't include me in your Torah. I'm done. I'm going down. Captain's going down with the ship. You want to wipe them out? You take me out with them. So Moshe Rabbeinu is really being, the defense counsel over here, really all out. Interesting to note this very interesting change. Yeah, just 1 second. It's, when you have a dilemma, or when you have a failure, there's two approaches to a failure. Approach number one is, you know what? A person's got a bad shalom bayit, a person's got a bad co-worker, a bad situation at work, a bad community, a bad kid, or whatever it is. And you see, there's one approach is, the kid's messed up, the spouse is messed up, the community's messed up, everything's messed up. We've got to start fresh. Everybody's a nutcase. Let's start scratch and let's scrap everything and start from fresh. That's one approach. The other approach is 1 second, let's try and delve into what the source of the problem is. Let's try and get into the nitty-gritty. Interesting to note, who took which approach? God takes the approach is, I'm done with this. Forget it. We're done. I'm going to just wipe these guys out and let's just start fresh. Moshe Rabbeinu, on the other hand, actually says, no. Let's get to the source of the problem. There must be an issue here. Let's understand what's going on. And what I want to try and do in the next half an hour or so is try and understand what's Moshe Rabbeinu's defense and how he kind of managed to bring it across such an incredible Avirah, but what's the underlay and how he managed to kind of calm God down. So Eyal, then Dan.
So I think God doesn't have much of a choice. I mean, what do you mean to start over? With who?
With Moshe, he says.
No, Moshe and who? I mean, if you will kill all the people of Israel, these are the nations. So how is it going? Like, it doesn't sound it's more of a threat, like Moshe in his age and who? What kind of kids? How do you do it? Are you finding a different nation? Doesn't make sense.
Okay. Interesting.
That's a fair point. I was going to add that, in fact, Hashem didn't have to tell Moshe what he's going to do. If he was really serious about destroying the people, he would have done it.
Yeah.
The fact that he actually talked to Moshe is like he's testing Moshe. What should I do? Do you have the capability to be the leader for this people? Because right now, I'm not happy with what happened. If you're capable, then maybe we can look beyond that and move forward. Otherwise,
So I like that. And if you actually look at Rashi, I'll point out Rashi in Pasuk 10, Pasuk Yud, Hanichali, Rashi says the following. Hanichali, right? Pasuk, God says, and now desist from me. He desist from me. He didn't even start with him. He says, Adayin lo shamanu, we have not yet heard Yitpal Moshe alehem. Vaychal Moshe is 2 psukim later, or the next pasuk. He says, just leave me alone. Ela kan patach lo petach, says Rashi, but here God gives Moses an opening. It's like, don't make me do this. Like, kind of, come on. What's the defense? Come on, you're the leader. Come on, what are you going to say? How are you going to let this happen? He's giving him the opening statement. No, he's prodding him on. How are you going to get the Jewish people out of this? So that's a bit like what Eyal and Dan is saying. At the end of the day, God doesn't really mean he's going to wipe them all out, but he wants to hear from Moshe. No, it's like like they say, when a kid's doing something naughty, you say, "I'm going to count to 3. If you're not here by 3, 1, 2, 2 and a quarter, 2 and a half. Wait, 2 and a half, 2, 3, 2 and 3 quarters. Oh,
Yeah.
Just in time.
Hold
That's
me.
exactly
Hold
what-
me. Yeah.
That's exactly what's going on over here. So I think it's a valid point. Okay.
and I think, in fact, Moshe was even more angry than Hashem was with the result of the people.
That's a very important point.
The fact that he broke the tablets that he never created, to me, says a huge amount about the disturbance that occurred.
The truth is,
But he didn't
really
break.
a separate class. Huh?
Moshe didn't break them.
I know, that's why they're so great, because he didn't write them and yet he destroyed them. That to me makes it the anger that he has against the people versus anyway.
So
What do you mean,
Okay.
Jacob? We didn't break them?
I'm sorry.
Moshe didn't want to break them.
No,
God
but
told him to break them.
Oh, okay.
what
I never
did
heard.
you say, Jacob? That what Moshe didn't want to break them, but
Moshe did not want to break the Lohot. Hashem told him, pay le pay, break the Lohot.
how do you know?
no,
I didn't hear that.
Pasuk doesn't say that. Pasuk doesn't say that.
Rashi אומר את זה.
I'll show you. מי אומר? לא, הפוך. הגמרא אומרת בדיוק הפוך. רגע, שנייה. It's interesting because one second, I'm just looking for the pasuk. פסוק י"ט, ויהי כאשר קרב אל המחנה והיה את העגל מחולו, ויחרף משה וישלח מידיו את הלוחות לשבר אותם תחת ההר. The truth is, there's something, there's a separate whole class on the reaction of Moshe Rabbeinu. The Gemara actually says, Yashar kochacha sheshibarta. That, God says there are 3 things that Moshe Rabbeinu did mida'ato, from his own will, and each one, HaKadosh Baruch Hu hiskim al yadav, actually agreed to him. But what's very interesting is, if you look at the breakdown of the Psukim, Moshe Rabbeinu is up in the mountain. Let's just point this out, because I think it's actually a very interesting point. Again, this is really a separate class, but an interesting point. Let's just go through the Psukim. How did the story go down? Moshe Rabbeinu is up in the mountain. The Jewish people do the Egel. At what point does Moshe Rabbeinu hear about the Egel?
God tells him, Hashem tells him,
Oh,
get down to your people because they've already defiled themselves.
Okay. So let's go to the Pasukim. 1 second. Pasuk Vav, Pasuk Zayin. וידבר אדוני משה, לך רד כי שיחת עמך אשר העליתם מארץ מצרים. God says to Moses, go to send for your nation that you have brought out from Egypt has denigrated. Then he has this whole exchange. Etc. Then already up there in the mountain, before he's even gone down, he's got the real deal. He's got real intel from God. I'm telling you what's happening down there before you even go down. This is what's happening. And Moses believes God. And he says, listen, God, you can't do this. You can't just wipe them out. Like Moshe starts praying, you got to remember, there's people, and then you promised them. Pasuk Tedvav, Pasuk 15, Moses goes down with the Luchot. Pasuk 19, he comes down the mountain. He gets close to the camp. He sees the camp. He sees them dancing around the egel. Boom, he gets angry. Boom, he smashes the luchot. Boom.
Right.
Yeah, but what right does Moshe have to break the luchot that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him,
Right.
written by HaKadosh Baruch Hu?
Fantastic question. Fantastic question.
Right.
I want to also
The thing that in Midrash Tanhuma, Rabbi Akiva Omer, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Amar Lo Leshaberan.
Can you read me the Midrash Tanhuma?
Rabbi Akiva Omer, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Amar Lo Leshaberan.
Oh, okay. So
I
the
want to
truth-
make another comment.
Yep.
Two things. First of all, I want to use Jacob too, but before that, there's something interesting with the words. In Pasuk Zayin, God said to Moshe, your nation.
Yeah.
But then in Pasuk, Moshe answers him, your nation.
Oh,
You know,
But this is the thing with the father that tells the mother, well, look
Yeah.
at your son, what he just did. You
And
know,
she says,
I don't say, look at your son. You
Your
know?
son.
It's your son. I say, no, it's
that's
your son.
right. It's exactly the way Rashi explains it. And the other Rashi, by the way, is what Gabi mentioned, the Erev Rav. Okay, we're not going to go up that street.
But
I
want to mention what Jacob said, something about, I think this is one of the biggest crimes of Moshe. You have the first copy of the Torah, and who gave you the right to who gave you the right to destroy it? Like,
You have to understand the point. No, but the fact is that Hashem didn't tell them that they built a calf. He told them that the people have defiled themselves to go down.
I'm going to throw back a question on all of you, which I think is a much stronger question. Okay, not to say that your question is not valid. Your questions are fantastic questions, and I chose not to focus on that today because that needs a separate class, and that's the end part of the story. We're going with the beginning part of the story today, but and maybe next year, Bezrat Hashem, we can discuss that together. But I can ask you a question straight back to you. We just said the breakdown is very simple. God's up there with Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is up there with God. He hears intel what's happening downstairs. Moshe is already going with his defense counsel to God about how he shouldn't wipe them out. Yet Moshe Rabbeinu still takes down the luchot. He then sees what's happening and then he breaks them. What, you didn't believe God? It's God telling you what's going on. So if you're going to break them, don't take them down.
Yeah. No.
And if you weren't planning to break them and you knew what's happening, why did you suddenly break them?
No.
Yeah.
What's going on? There's something very clear over here, which is
there is a beautiful explanation by Abarbanel that says, "Hevi'am beyado kedei shir'u otam Israel yargishu abedatam ka'asher yeshabberam le'enehem."
He wanted to make a scene.
Yes.
You're muted, Jacob.
Jacob, we can hear you.
Jacob,
he wanted Israel to see the enormity of their loss,
the magnitude of what's happening.
Yeah.
So that's one of the perushim, and it's a mistake to think that Moshe Rabbeinu got angry and he was so angry, and I'm just gonna smash him. This was a calculated event, which Moshe Rabbeinu brought them down and chose to smash them. And as the asked, how on earth do you have the audacity to break something which is made by the hands of God? But that's a separate discussion, which we're going to have to deal with another time. Let's get back to our original discussion.
Rabbi, there's something, the story is strange. And maybe you can explain, why is it happening twice? What's the point of coming, breaking them, going back up, writing it again?
Oh.
Well,
So that's part of that class. What's going on with the second part of the story? Why is he up there? He doesn't finish off the kind of negotiations. He has to come down, break the luchot, go back up. What's going on? That's the second half of the story, and that needs to be dealt with on a whole separate level. But I want to focus today on the first half of the story. First of all, how is it possible that the people are even able to begin to fathom to go ahead and serve the golden calf? The same generation, the same people that just 40 days before heard Naseh V'Nishma.
But you mentioned earlier, Rabbi, that you denied the idea that a multitude of people, therefore there was non-Israelites with the people that caused this to occur. We've studied with other rabbis that said that they can't believe the Israelites did that. And it was actually out of the multitude of people, it was the non-Israelites that left Egypt with them that actually did this.
No, I think that it's about Aaron too. You can't say that.
Okay, well, I want to go.
No, it's the influence of.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't want to focus on that. Rashi actually does point that, just to your point. Rashi says, Shichet Amecha, Pasuk 7. Shichet Ha'am lo ne'emar. Ela Amecha. Doesn't say the nation, but rather your nation. Erev Rav shkibalt matzucha v'geratam lo nimlachta bi v'amarta tov shishbiku gerim b'shchina hem shichatu v'shchitu. He says, your nation, the Erev Rav which came in, which you didn't ask me if that was the right thing to do. I said, okay, you want to do that? Go ahead and do that. They're the ones that messed up. But I don't want to go up that street. That's what Gabi was saying. Yes. The fact is, the entire nation was actually, put into the consequences. So I want to understand, what is Moshe's defense, and why is it that we all had to suffer for a certain fringe group, which is not even considered entirely part of the nation? Gabi.
Well, as a matter of fact, if you think about it for a second, I mean, there were over 500,000 that left Egypt, and there were just 3,000 that perished in the Egel Azab. It's really a fraction of the nation.
I think that's a fascinating observation. Let's just talk about that for 1 minute before I get to Gavi and then Eyal.
Jacob did his homework. Jacob did his homework today.
Sorry?
Jacob did his homework.
It's actually 660,000, but anyway.
So we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, how many people actually came out of Egypt?
Almost 2.5 million or more.
Oh, we said, the Pasuk says 600,000 men between
from 20 to 50.
Oh.
From 20 to 50.
We made a cheshbon, if 4/5 of the Klal Yisrael were died in the Makat Choshech, that makes it, if you put the women involved, the children involved, we're talking about approximately 2.5 to 3 million people.
That's what I said.
If you look at the Pasuk later, as Jacob pointed out correctly, Pasuk says, Moshe Rabbeinu comes down, and Moshe Rabbeinu says, Mil Hashem Elai, whoever, is ready to be there to do the right thing, Bnei Levi come, and the Levites come, and they kill 3,000 people. 3,000 people is less than 1% of just over 3 million people. So if you think about, in terms of, how many people actually were involved in the Egel, yes, you're right that there was also a plague which happened afterwards. But if you look at the beginning of Sefer Bamidbar, where they get recounted after the Egel, there's still 600,000 men between the age of 20 and 60. So literally, there's not many people that actually were really involved in the whole Egel. So just to put things into perspective, I think that's a very important point. But, Eyal, you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to. But, Rabbi, the fact is that the others did not argue the point when whoever this small group was, in fact, creating this idol. Why wasn't there a group to fight it back and say, don't do this, it's wrong? So to some extent, they're just as culpable, but not physically.
Well, that's a very good point, because Moshe got so angry because the rest, or he said, where are the rest? What did you do? Why did you stop it? Kol Israel Arevim Zerazeh. Makarapo.
Well,
Yep.
because part of it is because Aaron was there. Aaron was the leader to some extent, while Moshe was, had gone up, and that's why.
So I want to get to this point now. So I want to bring us on to our next question. What was Aharon's role in this whole story? Now, I would like to go through the psukim over here a little bit, just to understand what Aharon did. If you look through a simple reading of the psukim, Aharon seems to be the man over here. In fact, let's quickly run through it. So let's quickly go through the psukim just on a simplistic level, and then we're going to try and bring out the question. Pasuk Perik Lamed Bet Pasuk Aleph. Vayara Am Ki Boshesh Moshe Laret Minahar. The people saw that Moses was delayed in descending from the mountain. We'll explain that in Rashi soon. Vayikael Ha'am al Aaron. Vayomru Elav Kum Aselanu Elohim Asher Yachul Fanenu. Ki Zeh Moshe Ish Shelanu Me'et Mitzrayim Lo Yadanu Mehayanu. What's the pasuk say? They see Moshe is delayed for whatever reason. People gathered around Aaron, says to him, "Rise up, make for us a god who will go before us. For this Moses, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we did not know what became of him." Vayomer Elehem Aaron. Aaron, again, from a simple understanding of Psukim, Aaron says, "No problem. Pirku nizmei hazahav, asher bo'oznei neshechem v'nechem lotechem, v'vi'u alai. Remove the golden rings that are in the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me. Let's make a avodah zarah. Let's make an idol worship. Just give me the jewelry, tell your wives and kids, let's go for it." And that's what they did. They gave all the golden rings and earrings, and they brought them to Aaron. Took them. Who can translate? Pasuk Dalet. He took it from them. Anyone? Difficult words.
It's a process of melting the gold and creating a mold.
Okay. Eyal, you're muted.
Lachrot is to engrave.
Oh, very good. Okay, we'll see. Both your Pirushim Rashi brings. We'll see a huge difference and perhaps an underlying understanding of the way Rashi understands this whole story. And he made into a molten calf. They said, "This is your God, O Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt." Aaron saw him build an altar before him. Aaron called out and said, "A festival to Hashem tomorrow." They rise early the next day. They offered up korbanot, offerings. People sat to eat and drink. They got up to sport. And then we have the whole breakdown of Moshe Rabbeinu is told up in Shamayim that you should know the people have messed up. Moshe Rabbeinu comes down and he smashes the luchot, and that kind of like puts them back into reality. Okay, we're going to stop there. If you look at a casual review of the Pesukim, Aaron
quick
is
question.
responsible to everything. Dan.
Quick question, Rabbi. At what point did they actually create this? We're talking about 40 days, which in fact is a very significant number. But at what point do people lose confidence and forget Moshe and demand Aharon to create this for them? Is it day 30, 31, 32?
Oh, okay. So Rashi points out, we'll see that in a minute. I just want to, but before we get to that point, I want to hear your view on Aharon. If you look at a casual review of the Pesukim, it seems very clear that Aharon HaKohen is taking responsibility for this whole act. Not only is he taking responsibility, he's no.
Yeah, yes and no. He's stalling. He's trying to stall.
But we don't know that without Meforshim, right? Like if you just a level, it looks like he's a willing participant.
Of course, we're going to understand the Meforshim in a minute. I'm saying a casual review of the Pesukim,
He looks
seems
like
Aharon is the man.
He's a willing.
Yes, he's stalling. No, but Jake,
well, he's trying to stall. When he tells them, bring me the earrings, and you try to get to take your wife's diamond ring to see what she's going to do to you. He's trying to, and then he's going to say tomorrow, hoping that Moshe is going to come back before and stop all this madness. But he's trying because and he's threatened too. I mean, his life is threatened.
Exactly. The fact is that if he wasn't,
Rabbi, I'm thinking that.
Those are very important points.
If you see that the Mishkan and the gathering of all the materials from everybody actually took place before this, then there's kind of a forerunner of asking people to contribute. So this act of Aharon kind of facilitating the gathering of materials isn't seen as something off the wall, so to speak, because there's almost been like a precedent,
Very interesting point.
right? Because everybody contributed something to the making of the Mishkan. So what's this sudden gathering of gold or whatever material, and what's in everybody's mind? What's happening here? And is Aharon actually facilitating that, or does he kind of sense what's happening and he's trying to control it some way by being somewhat in control or directing it?
So, okay, so throw a question back at you and Jacob. We spoke about last week, and in previous weeks, there's a concept called the 3 cardinal sins, which a person has to die for, right? One of them is avodah zarah. Person says, serve this idol or I'll shoot you. Person has to be shot. Aharon is not only not asking to be shot over here when they tell him, let's build a egel, a golden calf, but he's actually facilitating the process. What's even more difficult is when you look at the consequences, the Torah kind of whitewashes Aharon's whole, the whole version of events. Aharon is like kind of completely sidelined over here. It's like, yeah, whatever. And Aharon goes on to serve as Kohen Gadol, the highest, level of priesthood in the Jewish people in the Mishkan for the next 40 years.
Quite.
In fact, later on, the only crime, if you want, the only sin which Aharon gets penalized for is he gets shoved in to the crime of the hitting of the rock with Moshe later on, right at the end of his life, where God says, because you and because you didn't sanctify my name, you're going to die, you and Moshe. Hey, what about the Egel? You did it! There's something missing over here in even the most basic understanding of the text.
Because even Moshe
out,
is very annoyed with him and very mad with him.
Yeah, but later on we hear nothing about it. He does. He comes straight away and he says to Aaron, what's going on? But otherwise we don't hear anything about it.
What did you do to my people? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The first person who he kind of attacks is Aaron, what are you doing? And Aaron says, listen, they came and there was a mob and it was crazy. And what can I do? You see the power of a mob. There's no, what one person could do, a bunch of people in a frenzy is suddenly boom. So there's so many different parts of this. Let's try and be systematic about this.
Tiku.
Sorry. So let's try and break this down. So first of all, let's go with the first Rashi to Dan's question before. Let's go through 2 or 3 Rashis, and I want to point out one specific Rashi to see if there's maybe a bit of something going on over here. First Rashi. So Dan asked before, what day was this? When did this actually happen? 40 days, Moshe is up in the mountain. What point exactly did this whole story happen? Says Rashi. Pasuk Aleph, Vayara am ki boshesh Moshe lared min hahar. So the people saw that Moshe was delayed in descending down the mountain. So what do you mean delayed? I mean, is he on the clock over here? What's going on? Says Rashi, boshesh is a very strange word. Ketargumo, lashon ichur, an expression of lateness. Says Rashi, Kikshala Moshe lahar, because when Moses went up the mountain, Amar lahem, he said to them, Lesof 40 yom, ani ba betoch 6 shaot. At the end of 40 days, I'll come in the first 6 hours of the day. Ba shesh, ki bo shesh, ba shesh. You spread the words, coming in the end of the 6th hour. There's they thought the day he ascended was part of their account. Coming down 40 days, they're looking at the clock. Hey, he's late. We'll wait an hour. We'll wait 2. Hey, what's going to be? He told them 40 full days. 40 days along with the nights. But the day that he ascended did not have a night with it. For he ascended on the 7th of Sivan. Thus the 40th day was on the 17th of Tammuz. On the 16th, the Satan came, he confused the world, and he displayed an image of darkness, gloom, and confusion. To imply Moshe must certainly have died. That's why confusion came to the world. Met Moshe. He said Moses dies. For 6 hours have passed, and he has not come, etc. The Gemara Shabbat says Satan came and actually made some sort of form of Moshe's casket in Shamayim. The Jews feel like, oh my goodness, Moshe Rabbeinu is dead. They get confused. They're suddenly in a state of anxiety. They're not sure, kind of no clarity anymore. Boom. They're going straight, go to the Egel. Which is our original question. Okay, no Moshe, but straight to the deep end. Okay, so if we want to know when this happened, we're talking about on the 40th day.
40th day.
The 40th day. They messed up the actual time. Instead of understanding that it was the 40th day the following day, they thought it was the 40th day from the day when he went. Okay? The following day, it says, that day they come now to Aaron. And they say, Aaron, please make for us the God. Aaron says, okay, how about you get we need some materials, get some gold. So as Jacob pointed out before, he tells them, Pasuk Gimel, Vayipar kol ha'am et dizmei ha'zahav shebe'ozneim vayivio la'Aaron. Sorry, Pasuk Bet. Vayomer alehem Aharon. Aaron says to them, Parku nizmei ha'zahav asher be'oznei neshechem bnechem notechem vayivio elai. Remove the golden rings on the ears of your wives, your sons, your daughters, and bring to me. Why do you say remove your earrings? It's because if you get the earrings from your wives, like Jacob said, try get your diamond ring off your wife. Try get the earrings which you gave for your 15th anniversary from your wife or from your children. Says Rashi, Amar Aaron belibo, Aaron said to himself, Hanashim ve'eladim chasim al tachshitehem. The women and the children are protective of their jewelry. Shemit akev hadavar. Perhaps they will object and the matter will be delayed. Ubetoch kach yavo Moshe. In the meantime, Moshe will come and it will be over. They didn't wait for the children. They just took their own children and they gave it to him. Okay. I want to point out, okay, let's say one more Rashi, okay? So Pasuk Dalet, Vayikach mi'adam. So okay, they eventually come, and they come with all this jewelry, all this gold. Says the Pasuk, Vayatzer oto bacheret. We had two explanations of it. It says Rashi. Let's have a look at Rashi. But Pasuk 4, Vayatzer oto bacheret, and bound it in a scarf. Rashi translates. This can be rendered in two ways. Ha'echad v'yatzar lashon kishira. One possibility is he tied it. He took all the gold. He took all the materials. He ties it, puts it into a scarf. Okay. Sheni, the second explanation, Vayatzer lashon surah, an expression of shaping. Bacheret, kli umanut hatzorfin, like Jacob said. It's like a goldsmith's tool to kind of engrave and etch in the gold. Now, we've spoken many a time that Rashi is here for one reason. Rashi is here to explain Peshuto Shel Mikra. We have to try and understand when Rashi says two perushim, two explanations, that means the first one is not good enough. He's understanding, simple understanding of the pasuk. the first one is not enough of an explanation for us. So Rashi has an additional explanation. Okay, Rashi's not here like, oh, you know what, you know how many explanation I can give? Rashi's trying to bring out something. Remember we said Rashi's like a Rav who's like a teacher who writes with the golden pen. Every word which Rashi writes is worth millions. Rashi's not just adding for nothing. So we have to understand when Rashi said Pshat 1, then kind of says, 1 second, another Purush is Pshat 2. Rashi's trying to bring something out. Let's try and analyze what is the difference between what seems to be a simplistic understanding of a translation of the words is actually a fundamental understanding of the way we look at Pesukim. Understanding number 1, Rashi's got a problem. Vayatzer oto b'cheret. Rashi wants to understand what is the simple meaning of the text. Vayikach mi'adam, takes it from the hands. Who cares who, what, where, how he did it? We don't say, when Aaron was built, I tell you how they took a chisel and they took a hammer and they did like this, did like that. We have to know one thing. They brought the gold, they made the egel, boom, we're good to go. Yeah, they had the egel and there was a whole pot. No, it was this tool and this is what he did. He pulled his shirt this way. I mean, who cares? Rashi's got a problem. What is this adding to the simple understanding of the pasuk? Says Rashi, "Vayatzer oto b'cheret." Simple understanding is he took it and he took all the gold, all the materials, and he put it into a scarf and put it together. From that simple understanding, it sounds like Aharon HaKohen over here is being very passive. He's not, kind of gonna, come on guys, let's build this thing, let's do this. He takes the gold, he's trying to stall them, as you said before. He tells them, no, go bring you the jewelry from wives and children. And he figured, by the time they get their act together, they'll come already be down. Little did he underestimate the frenzy of the mob. Before he knows it, he gets, packs of gold and materials. So it comes to him, he's not sure what to do with it. So he puts it together and he puts it in a handkerchief and he's like, okay, what now? Let's try and improvise. The first understanding of Rashi is, we're not going to kind of blame Aharon for what's going on over here because Aharon really doesn't know what to do. He tried to stall them and now he has to improvise because things are getting out of hand much quicker than he expected. But Rashi doesn't like this Perush. Why not? And the answer is because the next word of the pasuk is problematic. What's the next word? Vayikach mi'adam, he took it from the hand. Vayatzer oto b'cheret, and he bound it in a scarf. Next word. Vaya'asehu egel masecha, and made it into a molten calf. Now vaya'asehu, who's that referring to? Aharon. Right, simply. And he made it into a golden calf. So Rashi says, if you tell me Aaron over here is being passive, kind of just not sure what to do, why are you pinning it all on him and saying, you made it? Vayaseh, if you want to know who's responsible for this whole thing, Aharon, Vayasehu, and he made the golden calf. Says Rashi, doesn't really fit into the context of the pasuk. And it doesn't make sense, and don't forget, Aharon doesn't get penalized afterwards. Go back to our question. Says Rashi, I'm going to tell you another Perush. The other Perush is that Vayatzar oto b'cheret is literally, he starts shaping it, he starts molding it, he starts creating it like a real goldsmith. That means Aaron HaKohen is not being passive over here, he's actually being proactive. And then the next word in the pasuk is Vaya'asehu egel masecha. He actually makes and fashions this golden calf. So we really have to understand what exactly is going on over here. So is Aaron responsible or is he not? If he is responsible, why doesn't he get penalized? And if he's not, we have to understand exactly, if he made it, like what exactly happened over here.
I don't know how you're going to explain that he's not responsible.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
A quick question, Rabbi, on the first point, when the people were somewhat concerned that Moshe didn't come back in that time frame, they asked Aaron, in fact, not to create a God, but to create something that represents God that they saw before at Sinai. In essence, he was trying to show a physical, if you will, something to represent what they had before invisibly. So it's not as if they were creating a God as a separate idol or separate God. It was supposed to be basically a physical entity that represented Hashem that they saw before.
Okay, we're gonna have to understand that. Is that not still idol worship?
No,
Of course, but I think this is where Aaron comes in with the idea of, yeah, as you say, he's somewhat confused, a bit concerned, even scared. What do I do? And this is how we ended up with the
But
idea
Robert,
of creating something.
I want to take Daniel's and
Okay.
elaborate. I mean, the Ten Commandments saying don't make a god,
Oh,
but they didn't know about the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
no. We said this happened 40 days ago. The Ten Commandments happened in Har Sinai.
Yeah.
No, but the Ten Commandments they're on the tablets. They don't see the tablets, so maybe they thought.
No. So we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, I think, Parshat Yitro, that the Ten Commandments were given in Har Sinai. The Luchot are only given 40 days later. It's very interesting. That was what we pointed out then. But they had heard the Ten Commandments.
Quite.
Okay.
So there's no excuse for this, and that's part of the question. They just heard it 40 days ago, and they're already going ahead.
Well, the
and
technical
doing it.
aspect, yeah, but the technical aspect is that you shall have no other God before me, no other God, because there are no other gods. He's the only God.
Including the golden calf.
Okay.
But let's look at the words of the pasuk. Pasuk bet, kum asay lanu Elohim. Make for us God.
Pasuk Aleph.
That's very clear. So we have 5 minutes to kind of wrap this up. I'm going to just try and wrap this up. I'm going to say 3 points. 1, the Gemara in Sanhedrin. 2, the explanation of many of the Rishonim and Shamshon Raphael Hirsch, the Bet Halevi, many explanations, many Farshim go with this approach. Very different to what the simple understanding of the Pasuk is. And I just want to see if we can bring out some very practical application for us. So let's see if we can do that in 5 minutes. The Gemara in Sanhedrin says the following. We have to try and analyze what's actually going on or understand what the scene looked like. There, Moshe Rabbeinu is not coming down. He doesn't know what to do. We're in the desert. Moshe Rabbeinu has been the guy, and he's kind of got them out of all sorts of trouble. And suddenly, he's not there. Whether the Satan put some casket to make them believe that he was dead, whatever it is. But for whatever reason, Moshe Rabbeinu said he's coming on time, he's not on time. And they're stuck in the middle of nowhere and they don't know what to do. So they go to Hur, who was the brother-in-law of Moshe, and they say to him, okay, let's build a Avodah Zarah. Let's build a golden calf. Hur says, no way, you're crazy. The mob is in a frenzy, they take him, they kill him. This is the Talmud, the Gemara in Sanhedrin. Okay. They come next to the next person next in line. Who's the next person in line? Aaron. Aaron in a bit of a pickle over here. He knows Moshe Rabbeinu is coming in a couple of hours. On the other hand, if he doesn't give in to this mob, he's going to be next on the hit list. So now what? So Aaron doesn't know what to do. So Aaron says, like Jacob said before, let's try and stall them because Moshe Rabbeinu is coming. And once Moshe Rabbeinu comes, everything's going to be okay. It's just they're in a state of confusion. They're just not sure how to handle things. They're very excited. The power of the mob is so exciting that you can't know where things are going to go. So Aaron says, you know what? Let's just let's build a god and bring some jewelry. He brings the jewelry, and before he knows it, they already bring it. So what did he say? Pasuk Hey. He said, okay. Vayikra Aaron vayomar Chag l'Adonai
Machar.
Guys, hang in there. Let's do the party. But not today. Let's wait till tomorrow. Again, going to stall them.
Oh.
By the time tomorrow comes around, which is the real 40th day, Moshe Rabbeinu is already going to come down. Little did he know, they wake up early and they're ready partying and they're ready, boom. So Aaron really in this kind of difficult situation. Look at Pasuk later on, when Moshe Rabbeinu kind of admonishes Aaron, he explains exactly what.
22, 21, 22, something like that.
Yeah, 21. What are you doing? Why did this nation do to you? What did this nation do to you that you brought a great sin upon it? Don't blame me. Don't get angry with me. You know, where's the nation in a bad state? But you don't really say it's just, this is what happened, and it came to me. So let's just try and wrap up. We're so limited for time. Mepharshim explained what the people wanted over here was not to go completely off. Because if it was to go completely off, what's Moshe Rabbeinu going up the mountain saying to God, oh, let's go in defense of the Jewish people? Come on. This was a very serious crime. What exactly is Moshe's defense? Mepharshim explained, the commentators explain as follows. The people wanted was not a God, was not Avodah Zarah. Rather, the people's understanding was Moshe Rabbeinu is, from top half he's a malach, from bottom half he's human, if you want that sense. That means Moshe Rabbeinu is acting as a vehicle, an intermediary between the people and God.
Uh-huh.
He's the guy who managed to work everything out. He is the go-between between the people and God. Now, let's suddenly see Moshe is not here. Says the people to Aaron, Pasuk Aleph, back to Pasuk Aleph, Vayomer elav, kum as vayar ki boshesh Moshe lared min hahar. They saw Moshe Rabbeinu is not with us anymore. Vayomer elav, kum aseh lanu Elohim. Come bring us, make for us a God. What do you mean a God? It says make for us a God. Mepharshim explained, no. Like Pasuk says, Elohim lo tekalel, don't curse a God. Doesn't mean don't curse a God. Pasuk over there means don't curse the judges, don't curse the leader, don't curse the Dayan. So we're talking about make for us someone, a leader who is an intermediary between us and God. So Aaron realizes it's not about Avodah Zarah. This is not about plain and simple idol worship. There's just a basic, the people are kind of in limbo. They don't know how they're going to figure this out. So they say, you know what, make for us an intermediary. And then things obviously spiral out of control. He tries to push them off. And that's why when Moshe comes down, everything stops. What do you mean? I thought everything is, I said, so happy to kind of get rid of Moshe Rabbeinu. No. As soon as Moshe is back, everything's good to go.
So why is God upset?
Oh, now, the fact is, they did something wrong. Because, and that's, I think, a very powerful understanding for us, even in today's day and age, and I think we'll finish here. There is a simple understanding that there was a misunderstanding of the people. The people thought they needed a vehicle, an intermediary between them and God. They thought Moshe Rabbeinu was the guy in between them. That was not true. Every person has a relationship with God. Every person has this connection and can direct their everything of influence and everything which they need in religion to God directly. You don't need an intermediary. But what's the definition of idol worship? Idol worship is there's a breakdown in the system. I think we've spoken about this before, about the Rambam. Again, we don't have time for this, but how did Avodah Zarah come into the world? There was a breakdown. First there was, everybody understood God. Then everybody says, one second, if God has kind of intermediaries, like officers, so let's kind of give respect to the officers. So God has the sun, God has the moon, so let's bow down to the sun, let's bow down to the moon. And until eventually things got out of hand, people completely forgot that there's actually God behind this whole thing. And the same thing was what happened over here. The people misunderstood that intermediaries, which was the way God set things up, was that there's certain things in the world which kind of service God, but God is the one pulling the strings. and you've missed the point by creating another intermediary. You've just missed the point. I think from a practical perspective for every one of us, this is such a vital lesson for all of us. This is Avodah Zarah. It's not, am I going to bow down to this Buddhist thing? And I'm not doing that. But Avodah Zarah can mean anything for us. Do we believe in nature? Do we believe in, there's the money is such a powerful entity, and that's what we believe in? Or do we understand that God is putting the strings behind everything? We just have to open our eyes and not believe or think that there's something in between us and God, and that's what we're going to serve to be able to get to God. No, says Aaron HaKohen. No, says Moshe Rabbeinu. You've got it all wrong. Once you go there, it can spiral out of control. We have to make sure we understand there's only one direction to go directly to God, and understand that religion is not supposed to go to be bent towards what we want to believe in, but rather to understand that Kadosh Baruch Hu created a certain system, and that system is going to go in a very specific direction. Okay, we'll start.
Chazak, Rabbi. Toda, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Rabbi, toda rabba.
Night.
Thank you.
Toda rabba.
Right.
Toda.
Night,
Toda
everybody.
rabba.
Thank you,
Good
Rabbi.
night.